When I was a newcomer to the workforce, I stumbled into a special memory, completely unintended on my part. But in hindsight, it might have been my boss's plan all along, given how pleased he seemed to be, wrapping his arm around my shoulder. After graduating from college, I found myself in a rather ordinary job, which unfortunately went bankrupt. It was a bit embarrassing, but there I was, hunting from home and living off an allowance from my parents. When my aunt heard about my situation, she called my mom, saying, "Is Thane at home these days?" A friend of mine owns a company and is too busy to find a secretary. She has a driver, so she's looking for someone to manage her schedule and handle some personal tasks. Luckily, my boss's house wasn't far from ours, so I eagerly took the job. It wasn't related to my major, but the prospect of having a job excited me. I called my aunt's friend, saying, "Hello, I'm Elara, your friend's niece. When can I come in for an interview?" She replied warmly, "I've heard about you from Hikyan. You have a lovely voice. Come to our shoes office this afternoon." Though the call was brief, her elegant voice made me feel like working there would be enjoyable. The company seemed small for its reputation. According to my aunt, it was quite profitable. Upon arrival, I noticed a pretty secretary with a neat appearance and sharp manner of speaking. She seemed about my age, but I didn't dare start a conversation. When I entered the boss's office and sat down, I was instantly smitten by the woman who turned in her swivel chair to face me. She was on a different level of beauty compared to the secretary in the hallway. My aunt's friend was supposed to be in her late 40s, but she looked like she was in her 30s. The boss shared that she starts her day with a jog around the park at dawn, followed by a simple Americano made from her coffee machine, and listens to the news as she prepares for work. She mentioned looking for a male secretary because jogging alone at dawn could be unsafe, and she wanted someone to accompany her. Work would start around 4:30 am, but I could leave early. She goes to the golf driving range and plays tennis in the afternoon, with one day off from her exercise routine each week. I was pleasantly surprised when they told me at my job that they would pay me slightly more than what I was used to. It put me in a good mood on my way home. Every morning, I would wake up at dawn and make my way to my boss's house, and somehow, I ended up exercising with them. They even bought me a tracksuit, insisting that it helps work up a good sweat when running. Although I was good at almost every sport, jogging was new to me. My boss, who hardly ever missed a day of jogging, unless it was pouring rain or snowing heavily, seemed to have impeccable self-discipline and time management skills. My parents joked about how jogging from dawn must be an extreme job, but following my boss on these runs got me hooked on the appeal of jogging. One day, my boss decided to buy me clothes and took me to a department store. I told them it wasn't necessary, but they said, "What young person would get up at dawn to jog and not complain? You'll do well in whatever you do once you're out in society." And then they bought me both tracksuits and suits. I didn't know how to react since they were already paying me a generous salary, and now clothes too. My boss said, "It's my first time hiring a male secretary, but it's been so reassuring and great having you," and gave me these generous gifts. Occasionally, my boss would give me their credit card to buy gifts for my parents, which I would deliver through the chauffeur, along with some high-end health supplements and snacks, and they would also give me a little extra for running these errands. My boss wasn't just good-looking, but also generous and kind-hearted. They lived alone in a fairly large house. After my boss left for work, a housekeeper would come in to clean and stock the fridge. One day, I arrived at my boss's house for our jogging session, but they didn't come out even when it was time to start. They didn't answer the doorbell or their phone, having worked for them for 10 months. It was unlike them to be late for exercise, which worried me since they lived alone. I asked the security guard when my boss had come home, and they said they went out alone in the evening and came back late at night. It seemed they had a drinking appointment. Worried, I got the emergency key from the guard and hurried into the house, thinking it would be a big problem if anything had happened to my boss, who had always taken good care of me like a nephew. The house had 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. How much money do they have to live in such a big house alone? I wondered as I checked each room. My boss was nowhere to be found. I had 2 more rooms to check, the bedroom and its adjoining bathroom. I arrived and announced loudly, "Boss, I'm here. I'll come in." But there was no sign of the boss in the bedroom. Entering the last place left to check, the bathroom, I found the boss had fallen asleep in the bath. Tapping lightly on the edge of the tub, the boss woke with a start, quickly covered up with a towel, and exclaimed, "Oh my, what was I thinking?" That could have ended badly. Before stepping out from the bathroom, I checked if everything was okay by asking, "Boss, are you all right?" The boss replied, "Yeah, I'm fine. Let's skip the workout today, have breakfast, and then head to work," and then gathered coffee, salad, and nuts from the kitchen. The boss shared, "Actually, I met my first love yesterday. They're divorced and said they've been thinking of me. I wasn't going to go, but I missed them too much." But then, reality hit me hard, trailing off. "Why? What was it like seeing them?" I asked. "They've completely turned into an older man, different from their 20s. It was a mistake to go. But after seeing them, I couldn't sleep, kept thinking about the past." The boss had gone to the meeting point with a fluttering heart, but ended up not finding much to talk about. There wasn't much in common anymore between a person who had been married for over 20 years and themselves, still single, so the conversation didn't last long. Coming home feeling down and unable to sleep well, the boss said taking a bath helped relieve the fatigue and eventually led to sleep. The boss, feeling sorry for startling me, apologized, which made me feel quite sympathetic. "I have a schedule this afternoon, but how about we make it our little secret?" the boss said, looking into my eyes. Then pulled me close, and we shared a moment on the plush bedding. The boss confessed, "I had boyfriends until my 30s, but it became harder to meet men in my 40s. No matter how genuine they seemed, many were interested in me for my financial status, so I kept my distance from men." I said, "I hope you don't feel lonely," and gave the boss a tight hug. After that day, we started to stop by for a morning coffee after jogging, making sure the driver wouldn't notice. A year into working with the boss, I landed a job in my field of study, which naturally led us to drift apart. Having had a secret relationship with a boss who was old enough to be an aunt in my 20s, I've since found myself only attracted to older partners. Now past the age of marriage and still favoring older partners, it's a concern at home, and I'm contemplating whether to reach out to the boss again.